Imagine waking up tomorrow with no alarm clock, no office, no deadlines, no emails, and no endless notifications demanding your attention. There is no rush to get ready for work, no traffic, and no schedule controlling every hour of your day. Most people would call that freedom. What's fascinating is that for most of human history, this wasn't a dream. It was simply everyday life. When we think about prehistoric humans, we often imagine people constantly struggling to survive. Movies and documentaries frequently show them running from predators, searching desperately for food, and facing danger every moment of the day. But the evidence tells a much more complicated story. Ancient humans certainly worked to survive. They hunted animals, gathered plants, made tools, and built shelters, yet they also found time for art, music, storytelling, social gatherings, and caring for one another. Archaeologists have discovered musical instruments made from bone that are more than 35,000 years old. They have found necklaces crafted from shells and animal teeth. They have uncovered cave paintings so sophisticated that modern artists still admire them today. These discoveries suggest something surprising. The people who lived thousands of years ago were not spending every waking moment fighting for survival. In fact, many researchers believe they had significantly more free time than the average person living today. One of the most influential ideas came from anthropologist Marshall Sahlins. While studying hunter-gatherer societies, he found that many groups spent only a few hours each day obtaining food and handling essential tasks. After those necessities were completed, much of the remaining day was available for social interaction, rest, learning, entertainment, and creative activities. Sahlins referred to hunter-gatherers as the original affluent society, not because they were wealthy, not because they owned large houses or valuable possessions, but because they possessed something modern people constantly struggle to find: time. Today, many individuals spend most of their lives working, commuting, managing bills, and dealing with endless streams of information. Technology has made life more convenient in many ways, yet it has also filled our days with constant demands on our attention. This raises an interesting question. If ancient humans were not occupied every minute with survival, what exactly filled their days? One answer is conversation. Human beings are naturally social creatures, and prehistoric communities were built around communication. Without television, smartphones, or the internet, people spent enormous amounts of time talking to one another. They shared stories, they discussed recent events, they taught younger generations. They joked, argued, laughed, and exchanged ideas. For many groups, storytelling served as entertainment, education, and cultural preservation all at once. Knowledge about animals, seasons, plants, geography, and social rules was often passed from one generation to another through stories. These stories helped communities survive while also strengthening social bonds. Many anthropologists believe language itself became one of humanity's greatest advantages because it allowed large groups of people to cooperate effectively. Strong social connections improved survival. People who trusted one another could share resources, care for children together, and help one another during difficult times. Another surprising aspect of ancient life involves sleep. Today, many people believe that sleeping for 8 uninterrupted hours is natural and universal. Historical evidence suggests otherwise. Before widespread artificial lighting, many people slept in 2 separate periods. They would fall asleep shortly after dark, wake up for a period during the middle of the night, and then return to sleep until morning. During this quiet period, people might talk, think, reflect, pray, or simply sit beside a fire. Instead of treating wakefulness as a problem, they considered it a normal part of life. Ancient evenings were very different from modern evenings. Today, countless people spend their nights staring at screens. Thousands of years ago, darkness encouraged slower activities. People gathered around fires, listened to stories, observed the stars, and spent time with family members. These moments may have played an important role in emotional well-being and community life. Creativity was another major part of prehistoric existence. The term Stone Age often creates the impression of a technologically simple world. In reality, many ancient skills required remarkable expertise. Creating a stone blade demanded precision and experience. A single mistake could ruin hours of work. Making clothing was equally impressive. Animal hides had to be cleaned, softened, prepared, and stitched together. Bone needles discovered by archaeologists demonstrate how carefully these tasks were performed. The existence of such tools reveals patience, planning, and craftsmanship. Then there is the art. Some cave paintings are tens of thousands of years old.
Yet they display a sophisticated understanding of movement and form. Artists used natural curves in cave walls to create three-dimensional effects. When illuminated by firelight, the painted animals appeared almost alive. These images were not created because people needed food. They were created because human beings possess an innate desire to express ideas and emotions. Art has been part of our species for an incredibly long time. Play was equally important. Children learned many skills through games and imitation. Young hunters practiced hunting techniques. Young gatherers observed experienced adults. Competition, cooperation, and experimentation helped children develop the abilities they would later need as adults. Play was not separate from education. Play was education. It taught physical coordination, communication, emotional control, and social behavior. One of the most touching discoveries about ancient humans involves their treatment of vulnerable individuals.
Archaeologists have found evidence of people who survived severe injuries and disabilities for many years. Some individuals suffered conditions that would have prevented them from hunting or performing demanding physical tasks, yet they continued to live for decades. This could only happen if other members of the community cared for them. Someone provided food. Someone offered protection. Someone invested time and effort in helping them survive. These discoveries challenge the idea that ancient life was purely brutal and selfish. Instead, they reveal communities capable of compassion, cooperation, and long-term care. Human kindness did not suddenly appear in modern civilization. It existed long before cities, governments, or written language. Of course, hunting remained an important part of life. One of the most extraordinary hunting methods was persistence hunting. Rather than relying on speed, humans relied on endurance. Hunters would track an animal for hours under the heat of the sun.
The animal would repeatedly run away and attempt to recover. The hunters simply continued following. Because humans sweat efficiently and can regulate body temperature during prolonged activity, they often outlasted their prey. Eventually, the exhausted animal could no longer continue. This strategy required patience, teamwork, and incredible physical endurance. It also highlights something remarkable about the human body. Many of our physical traits evolved to support long-distance movement. Our legs, feet, breathing systems, and ability to sweat all contributed to endurance running. Humans were not the fastest predators, but they were among the most persistent. Perhaps the most important difference between ancient humans and many people today was their relationship with rest. Modern life rarely allows the mind to become truly quiet. Whenever boredom appears, we often reach for a screen. We consume information constantly. Ancient humans lived in a very different environment. They experienced long periods of reflection and observation. They watched fires burn. They observed changing weather. They studied animal behavior. They spent time thinking. These moments of mental stillness may have encouraged creativity, problem-solving, and self-awareness. Many of humanity's greatest achievements began with curiosity, And curiosity requires time. Time to observe. Time to wonder. Time to ask questions. When we look closely at prehistoric life, we discover something unexpected. Ancient humans were not simply surviving. They were creating. They were learning. They were caring for one another. They were telling stories, making art, playing games, solving problems, and building relationships. In many ways, they were doing the same things we do today. The difference is that they often had more time to do them. Their lives were harder in some respects and easier in others. But one thing is clear. The people who came before us were far more sophisticated, creative, and deeply human than we often imagine. And perhaps the biggest lesson they leave behind is this.
A meaningful life is not measured only by productivity, creativity, curiosity, and the time we spend with one another.